Hello, possums. It's good to be back. Dr. Lena here, coming to you from Australia. Now, the rest of Australia is in a heat wave, early summer heat wave, 100 degrees. I'm in the south and we're getting wind straight off the Antarctic. It's freezing where I live. Go figure. But what we all share as Australians is the vision of the Yeti stumbling around Asia, obviously not knowing what country he is in, its role or its history or its relationship to anything, no clue. And our commentators are saying, does he think if he has a photo taken with someone, it represents a trade deal or something? He thinks he's got a trade deal with Malaysia and Cambodia. No, pet, haven't even sat down to lunch yet. Not happening. A version of it might go forward in the future, but it's not how it works. So I just want to have a look at how this is going down in Asia. Now, having said all that, they have indulged him. So Thailand and Cambodia are pretending that he's brokered this peace deal because the Sharpies come out. Well, there wasn't actually a war. Hard to get a peace deal when there hasn't been a war. But he can do it. So that's awesome. No, they have border skirmishes that have been going on for decades and will continue to erupt from time to time because no one gives a flying toss what the Yeti thinks. But I want to have a look through Asian eyes, if you like, what's happening. I would recommend a podcaster called Chris Norland, and he's Vietnamese, married to a Korean. He has lived in the States most of his life, but he has a really great insider take on what's going on, particularly in South Korea. Okay, so some of the One World Tarot and some of the other cards. How is Asia reacting? What are they really thinking? Mm. Mm. Oh, my cards are upset. Justice, temperance, business as usual. Well, yes. So let's have a look at these. Asia. What's Asia really thinking? Now, okay, justice in the big picture. I think this refers to social justice. So I say to my students often, if you're learning to read for people, you ask them first, have they got a legal conflict going on in their lives? And if not, an interpretation is that it's social justice. Now, Asia is modernizing and maturing very quickly and probably leaving most of the rest of us in the shade. We were told it was the Asian century last century, but I think it's coming on stream now. So they're looking at their power and they're looking at the laws around, in this case, trade. Balance in a time of uncertainty. So, in other words, they're not going to rush and sign up to anything. 1 foot on land, 1 foot in the water. They're hedging their bets. They can see what is happening in the US because the rest of the world knows more about the US than the US tends to know about the rest of the world. And that's what happens when you're a superpower. However, things are shifting. They can see how impoverished Americans are becoming. So they're waiting to see, will the legal system stand up in the US in the form of the Supreme Court, which we'll get to in this video? And they're hearing stories about Americans going hungry. So it's a role reversal from third world to first world. It's like one's rising up, one's sinking down, and we're about here. Right. Now, also, Asia gets crypto uncertainty. So Asia is not immune to corruption or having oligarchs amass phenomenal personal wealth. None of this is new. There's a lot of excitement in the Asian markets about crypto. But you can be assured Asia's not going to totally move to crypto. There's uncertainty there. They can feel a power shift, and we are witnessing it, we are living it. So, as opposed to the dominant hegemony of the United States, we're going to see what's called multipolar world markets. China being the big kid on the block, India is also massively powerful. Brazil is on the up. So, I mean, Brazil has 212 million people. China and India between them have a massive population. So they are part of this power shift. Misuse of funds. Interesting, it comes in the same row as crypto uncertainty. So I think Asia's wary, very wary of how things could go south for them if they overinvest in crypto right now. I didn't expect it to go there. That's interesting. I love getting surprises with the cards. Okay, now, first of all, big shout out to Gavin Newsom. Now, I think I've made my position here clear. It's not about Gavin Newsom being a faultless individual and the only answer going forward. No, no, no. But he's setting a much higher bar for the Dems to try and meet. And he's almost acting as the de facto minority speaker. But I'm sure most of you would have seen he has opened a merchandise shop and they've sold out of knee pads. So his people designed these knee pads to symbolize the groveling, bending of the knee by CEOs, by universities, by media institutions, all of it. And he is literally wiping the floor symbolically and optically by selling knee pads to help them do their kneeling. Sold out. Love that. Wouldn't mind a set myself. So he's also upfront calling out the sheer cray-cray of what we're witnessing. And if the Dems had got to be careful on YouTube, let's say the cojones or the wherewithal, this should be the easiest time in the history of the United States to be thrashing the obvious. The absolute obvious. You say to people, this guy's taken us into a trade war with 90 people. Your dollar is not going to stretch far enough for you. People are struggling to eat. The shutdown is ongoing. We have to stop this guy. No, I don't know what they're doing, but they're not doing the obvious. Gavin is also, all the governors, not all the governors, but most of the blue governors are doing a really good job in the absence of leadership. And I want to make a comment here. It's been noted in conservative media worldwide, the Dems do not have a leader. In this time in history, the Dems do not have a leader. It is shocking. It's an abrogation of all they ever symbolised. Absolutely breathtakingly shocking. Nor is there any urgency. We're 10 months in and it's like, Chuck Schumer will have a little mutter about something. Hakeem Jeffries will do a little interview over here, exhibiting no urgency. And the faceless, voiceless head of the Democratic Committee, Ken Martin. If anyone was taking up oxygen in a room, it's Ken Martin. Who is this guy? It is shocking. So Newsom has to come in, the other governors have to come in and provide a voice. Talk about stating the bleeding obvious, as they say in the UK. But the big issue here is the Supreme Court. So very soon they're going to rule on the tariffs. Let me have a substantial digression here, intrepid viewers. So they are being asked, are the tariffs legal? Because you've said this guy can do anything. So are you going to back that up with the immunity ruling and say, yes, they're legal? Really? Or are you going to say these are supposed to be issued by Congress? Remember the Constitution. I think they've probably got it in bullet points on the back of their bathroom door. Congress, tariffs. Right? I don't think they have the strength to make that decision. So let's have a look. The Supreme Court, because if they rule they're illegal, the tariffs have to be given back. Not given back to you, the consumer. No, 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 no. Nothing so foolish as that. But given back to the importers. Are they going to do that? What's the Supreme Court going to do? It's absolutely extraordinary. Let's have a look here what this illustrious Supreme Court has in mind. There they are. Well, well, well. Just a couple of extra cards here. Oops. There'll be some debate about this card. We'll talk about it in a minute. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The Hierophant. Ah, remember the White House before half of it was demolished? Have you seen the drawings of the new dastardly? It's bigger than the rest of the White House. Have you seen the images? It's shocking to people who aren't American, let alone being there watching this. Anyway, Hierophant, all of it. Organised religion, which shouldn't be part of the Supreme Court, but it is. The White House, who they have given complete control to, and now we're seeing the result, right? And the court system. This is them. They've got themselves in this mess. No one to blame but themselves. I feel a bit bad sometimes, viewers, because I'm not the only one. We tend to condemn the whole Supreme Court, and there are the three Liberal justices who are doing their best, but they're outnumbered 6-3. They've done this to themselves. They're only just realizing, oh, oh, he could actually disband the Supreme Court. Oh, imagine that. They realize now they've played a role. The red wine, or you could say symbolically, the blood of America is being drained on their watch. There's 2 cups up. It's 5 minutes to midnight for the Supreme Court. Now, the star, YouTube, I'll cover her little bits. The star, conventionally gorgeous card. It has always been my card for the last 10 years of the best of America. However, Hogarth and some of the others see this as the narcissist card looking in the pool. But I'm going to say here, I think this still does represent the best of America. What I'm beginning to see here, I think this is the first time in both the presidencies of the Yeti that they've realized their role. And now look at their outcome card. Lacking control. Lacking control. They're sensing for the first time they could be on the chopping block too, and history will record them as those who allowed it to happen. Not only allowed it, went out of their way to give the executive branch complete power, which transgressed the fundamentals of the Constitution. They're only now realizing it. It's staggering, isn't it? Now, before I finish that topic, I think they're freaked out with this lack of control, right? Ultimately, my prediction is they are going to kick it back to Congress. They're going to hide now behind the fig leaf of the Constitution that they have been ripping up piece by piece. And they're going to say, oh, well, Congress needs to decide. Now, if they'd done that 6 months ago, right, which they could have done, Congress then would have rubber stamped it, and the Yeti would have complete carte blanche to do the tariffs. But it's not so easy for the Republicans now. Why? Because they have to vote against their voters and go on the record of saying, we vote for tariffs. They've been hiding behind, you know, the big the big guy over here, what can you do? But he's so decisive. Look, he's brought in these tariffs. We just have to live with it'll be all right. They can't hide anymore. And I think this is the underlying message that's coming out. The Supreme Court can't hide anymore. And Congress, I think, will have to actually put their hands up to more tariffs, more closed hospitals, all of it. The farmers, it's over for the farmers. Most farmers are suffering massively at this point. What can you say? They voted for the man 3 times, including when Biden actually offered them huge breaks in all sorts of ways. They benefited from Biden, but no, not enough to vote for him. I've got my 10-gallon hat. I vote Republican. No cure for stupid. There is no cure for stupid. Right. Now, let me just have a look here in other news. Oh, the big news. In a couple of weeks, I'm going overseas and I'm going to catch up with Dave from Moonride. And we're going to come to you from Athens. And if it works out, who knows? If it works out, we're going to go to Delphi, the home of the oracles, and do a special dedicated video for you guys from Delphi. How's that? Don't worry, I'm taking you with me. So pack a spare pair of knickers and you can come too. Okay. Now, oh, didn't you love the Canadian ad? Doug Ford, I think, put the ad up. Now, I'd seen this video, maybe many of you had too, of Reagan doing this very sensible, extended speech on what's wrong with tariffs. He was Mr. Free Trade guy. Now, I don't think for a minute Reagan understood the big economy any more than the Yeti does. I really don't think so. But the difference was Reagan had the professionals to put it into place. So Reagan, who then went on to dismantle manufacturing in the US and to kill the unions and to put the next 3 generations out of work in the Rust Belt, the Bible Belt, etc., and yet managed to hold the hearts and minds of those same people. Miracle in itself. It was written by a speechwriter, obviously. It's very coherent, but you've got to love it. And suddenly the GOP is saying, oh, well, it's not the Reagan era. So spineless. But it did give us all a bit of a giggle. And again, the Dems could be playing that 24/7. There's this fuss about the Reagan Foundation, but it was a televised speech by a president. It has to be out there for the common people historically to have a look at. So the Dems just should be just pushing the obvious. Are your grocery bills and utility bills going up? Stop this guy because they're going to go up 1,000-fold from here. They need to get a bit scary. Don't be afraid. What am I afraid? Oh, just a little quote I want to share with you. Jenny Gage, who I love, Life Take Two. She left an extremely Christian nationalist community some years ago now. I love everything she does. A shout out to Jen Gage. So this is a quote about Charlie Kirk, and she said, Charlie Kirk died as he lived, with hate in his mouth and applause in his ears. She's a poet. Bless. Oh my God. So let's have a look here. What I'm doing a few cards for you guys now. Midas Touch, which of course is doing its best to keep up with the legal shenanigans, but they did a show where they emphasize what is needed, excuse me, to be part of the resistance. Canada is showing us the way of how to resist, being firm, but with humor. You can do both things. It's important to do both things because in the sheer horror and the madness, you've got to have a laugh. But this Midas Touch show, they talked about three things here. What America can do to resist. After the very big, successful No Kings March, crowds, courts, and courage. The three C's. I love that. Love that. All right, now you guys, let's have a look. Have a look. Let's have a look. Now, let me know too in the comments just how you're going. In Australia, we have an expression, how are you traveling? Meaning, how are you going? How are you doing? So let me know how you're doing. All right? Okay, this is for you guys. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. We are all, because the entire world is impacted on, we're all impacted by what stage dementia has the President of the United States got to? Okay, we're all impacted. We lose any protection in Australia if we were invaded by China or whatever, heaven forbid. I think China is now more sophisticated than that. I'd like to think so. But we are all impacted. This is a crossroads, obviously, for the US of A, but in the bigger picture. She's wearing a blindfold. In other words, these things have to be resolved by choosing a path. And you can choose the path of submission or the path of resistance. or any of those dualities. Mm. I choose to spend time helping someone else sometime or not. Right. So the blindfold is there symbolizing in a way what you can't see, you can't really control. So use the intellect of the swords, the incisiveness and clarity of the swords to understand we are witnessing and living through an epic time in history. You're stronger than you think. Please understand that. Please understand it. So, like our immediate ancestors, in terms of depending where you're from, everyone has a different cultural story too. But our ancestors, by definition, had to be strong people, or we wouldn't be here, any of us. You have this inner strength. And also, I like the symbology here. The young woman taming the lion. We tend to, in times of extreme stress, and we can all agree it's a massively stressful time, that it can get better. It must get better. It doesn't mean it can't decline and get harder and worse short term, but we've got to keep looking at the horizon and being part of making it better, and you have the strength to do this. It is not easy, and it's not clear. Things are never clear with the moon, but look at this. The blindfold, it doesn't matter almost whether it's day or night. It doesn't matter what atrocities this man or the current GOP do. It's a bigger picture. Now, loving this. This is a lunar eclipse, and I think we've got some more eclipses on heading our way. But eclipses are doorways to the other world, right? This is about asking for clarity and strength from the other side. This, in this case, is about our ancestors on the other side. Call on them. Call on them. This is a doorway to things that are bigger and more lasting and beyond. How do you get there? The Lover's card. Joining with other people. I put some bikinis on Eve, but they've worn off. This is the way through. We've got more people living alone now than ever before historically because it wasn't possible. Even when I was growing up, you had 3 generations under the same roof. You had the doddery grandma there, the working parents, the kids getting raised. This was normal. Then came the 50s, and suddenly everyone had to have their own kitchen, and their own washing machine, their own everything. And now, and there are many other sociological factors at play. It doesn't matter if you're choosing to live alone and you're happiest living alone. This is not a critique of that. What it is talking about is just extending from your cocoon out. And whether you live alone or not, we need to support each other in this time. The Lovers, when it's not romantic, is about unions, mergers, and pacts. So please find a way. It might be in your apartment block, it might be in your immediate area, it might be from people further away from you but have the same values. It could be people you don't share political values with, like they might be literally MAGA or ex-MAGA. Can still speak to them. Find ways to save money with food, buying in bulk, etc. It saves you petrol going to the grocery store. Someone shops for all the hard goods once a month. You just pop round to their place and pick up your share, etc. Lots of variations on that. Have you got extra in your pantry? I'm sure many of you who have would already be donating to food banks. But if you haven't, can you donate a few hours of your time? Once a month, once every 2 weeks? Anything you can do for each other is really, really valuable. And that's where you often have conversations with people. They might be much more religious than you are. You might be more religious than they are, or whatever. But if you're serving people who are hungry, you're in a bonding situation for that time. So you're more likely to be receptive to ideas about how you can work together. So let me know, guys, what you think about this. Or you're going, oh no, I don't know anyone, I don't want to know anyone, or whatever. What's your story? I'm not judging you, right? I'm only suggesting ways to emerge from cocoons here. Many of you aren't in cocoons, obviously. But also, I think it's time if you have young people in your world, either because you're still teaching or your adult children haven't left home, or any reason, I think it's time for fresh, new conversations. I'm getting the intergenerational vibe here, is what I'm stumbling to say. So let me know what you think about helping each other intergenerationally. Okay, bye for now, and I'll see you really soon. Ciao, ciao.